Looking at our core concepts and skills, we need to start thinking about how to express them. To start, we're going to think about the learning that we want to happen around these core concepts and skills. To help us, we'll take a look at Bloom's taxonomy for learning. Bloom's taxonomy for learning helps to categorize different types of learning and breaks down the learning process into identifiable actions. These categories include remembering, understanding, applying, evaluating, and creating. Attached to each of these categories is a series of actions. Let's look at remembering as an example. In order to progress through a course, learners have to remember the core skills and concepts you teach them and have to be able to demonstrate that they do. The way that they demonstrate remembering, however, looks different depending on the situation and what's being asked. For instance, you may ask them to define a core concept on an exam to demonstrate that they remember what it is. Defining a core concept asks learners to both recall and communicate their knowledge. This action is not the same as having them identify that same concept in a case study. Here, they are having to recall that concept, apply it to a case study, and then communicate it. We use Bloom's taxonomy for learning to help us be specific with our expectations and directions. Using specific action verbs from Bloom's also ensures that learners are clear about what actions they need to perform to demonstrate their knowledge and skills. You can find a complete breakdown of the Bloom's taxonomy of learning on the Creating Learning Outcomes worksheet. You'll see a breakdown of the Bloom's categories and corresponding action verbs. Make sure to check it out. Once you have identified a learning category and specific behavior, we're ready to put our pieces together. And to do that, we'll use this simple formula: action verb plus knowledge or skill plus proficiency. Using this formula during our drafting phase helps us to ensure that we are clearly communicating our expectations and telling our learners the specific ways they can demonstrate their knowledge and skills. By also including proficiency, we are explaining to learners what work will be ahead of them in the course and showing them what success will look like at the end. Before we draft our own learning outcomes, let's look at an example. This learning outcome was written using 3 different proficiency levels so that you can see the difference between them. You'll notice that the differences in the demands of learner performance communicated by the action verbs. You'll also notice that the knowledge and skills also increase in complexity as we increase our desired level of proficiency. Now, using our brainstorming from part 1 and the formula we just discussed, take a few moments to draft 3 to 5 learning outcomes. Remember, we're focusing right now on capturing the course's big ideas and just starting to think about how we want to structure them. Don't worry about editing at this point. We'll talk more about that in the next part of the presentation.